Being diligent is not a nice to have. It's a Christian virtue. It's something we should train up people in. It's something we should pass on to our children. Do you know that back in the day, people used to be stepped down from church leadership because of laziness. If you study some of those great reformers, you'll see what would happen in those particular churches, you see. And by the way, I'm not talking today about hurry sickness. That's one of the problems we have here in Gauteng province. Hurry sickness. You know, people move up from the coast and they say, yo, what's happening here? All right. It's where we've got this disease where if we're not busy, then we get sick and there's something wrong. All right. But we're busy in the wrong direction. I know that some of you have been on the other extreme of workaholism. Okay. So anything to do with working hard, you view it negatively. All right. It's viewed negatively by you. The reality is that in a lot of nations, poverty is a real issue that is sadly linked to people's own laziness. Okay, we see two people from the same community. One develops themselves, they work hard, and they become successful, whilst the other one gets into crime because they're impatient, they're envious, and they're lazy. And I'm speaking from experience, not my personal experience, but experience like I've spoken to a former gangster. And he said, you know what, when we would do these heists and when we would do this and we would do that, one of the reasons we did it is, number one, we saw our uncles doing it and we saw the money that they made. They're not criminals anymore, but we saw what they did. And we also wanted to have what they had. We wanted to also drive those fancy vehicles and we wanted it now. So I said, oh, impatience, yes. Oh, envy, yes. And then he says, and Paul, who wants to get up every morning and go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning? No one wants to do that. So I said, laziness. Yes, he confirmed that. Okay. I've seen that laziness is something that is passed on to the next generation. I've seen it. We can create a culture of laziness. We can create a culture of laziness. Okay, because laziness is actually a habit. Have you noticed that when your kids are on holiday, what happens? They're on holiday and they get more and more tired and lethargic. They don't feel like doing this. They don't feel like doing that. And the moment school starts again, what happens? They're inundated with lots of work and they're like, complain, there's so much work. And I know it's true because they're now in a higher grade, but I've also asked my kids this question. I said, is it because you weren't doing that much work during the holidays and now you're adjusting? Have you noticed that if you look back on your life, there was a period where you worked really hard and you look back and you say, how did I accomplish all those amazing things? I can't believe I did so much. It's because you had a mindset of diligence and you accomplished a lot of that kind of thing. And maybe right now you're just not in that space. So I believe that diligence is both a virtue and a mindset. You get into this mode where you say, I want to focus, I want to be full of vigor, and I want to achieve these results. It's a mode you get yourself into. It's a mode you get yourself into. And we have seasons like that. I'm telling you right now, the early church was ruthless with regards to how to treat lazy people. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 6 through to 10, it says, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you. Now that's quite major. He didn't just say we command you, right? He says, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you. It wasn't a suggestion, right? It says, brothers and sisters, to keep away from every believer who is idle and disruptive and does not live according to the teaching you received from us. I find it very interesting how in a lot of churches we teach that keep away from this type of person, keep away from that type of person. But how often do you hear it being said, keep away from a person who's idle? I'll tell you why. Because laziness is infectious. Laziness is infectious. If you hang around lazy people, you often will become lazy. You'll catch that habit, okay? If you hang around diligent people, it's infectious. It's infectious. I remember when we would go to my rural home for holidays, right, in the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe, and we would go there every holiday. My grandmother was really, she was a workhorse, you know. It wasn't like those holidays where it's like, hey, just chill and just play. She's like, are you guys going out to the fields? Are you guys doing this? Are you guys doing that? You know, I remember one time I was sitting down, I'd been out in the fields and I was just taking a break and I was sitting in the lounge and I was like just wiping my glasses. I used to wear glasses growing up. I was wiping my glasses and she really dissed me just for sitting, not doing anything, wiping my glasses. It's quite funny when I think back to it. But the point I'm making is when I look at the people in my dad's family and his siblings, they're all extremely diligent. They grew up under that kind of environment. And I'm telling you now, parents, how you are, the culture you create, you will either breed children who are diligent, who are productive with their use of time, or children who are lazy and who will not prosper because of that. Okay, so this is so important. It's infectious. It says, keep away from every believer who is idle and disruptive and does not live according to the teaching you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow our example. Okay, what was Paul and his team like? We were not idle when we were with you. So again, he uses the example of being idle. You can see that's the primary theme here. We were not idle when we were with you, nor did we eat anyone's food without paying for it. Okay, so they didn't take advantage of people. On the contrary, we worked night and day, laboring and toiling so that we would not be a burden to any of you. We did this not because we do not have the right to such help, but in order to offer ourselves as a model for you to imitate. In other words, diligence is something people can imitate. But you see, we have to have role models if people are going to imitate it. Okay? For even when we were with you, we gave you this rule. The one who's unwilling to work shall not eat. I mean, this is major. And you see, why do people not work? Very often they're unwilling to work. They're unwilling to work. That's a fact. All right. Now, it's important to note that Paul uses the words rule. Right? This is the rule I gave you. And he says, I command you. He uses the word command. So these were not mere suggestions. This is part of our Christian culture. And it's so important that we recreate this in the church context today, that we are hardworking people. He was so intentional about modeling this behavior to them, right? So that they had something to follow, something to copy.